Hi guys, it's Burp here and welcome to today's exclusive video report. And today guys, I'm going to take you for a journey through a couple of time frames starting off of a weekly chart, Bitcoin USD spot price on Bitstamp exchange. We are going to actually define the most important levels from all the angles that are relevant from the technical analysis point of view, from the high time frames, medium term movements, and short term time frames. We are still, of course, looking at 2021 range, okay? The most important point is knowing what is the real resistance then, which later was kind of like attempted for a breach, for a breakout, which ended up being a faded movement, fake breakout. So technically this validates the importance of the prior resistance, or you actually want to have an account for the latest most up-to-date movement, right? I would kind of like get it as some sort of like a more conservative way and more, I should say, aggressive way, right? This defines the actual cluster of resistances and cluster of supports, right? And if you have a look, the area kind of like matching the lows in here, which is arguable, and matching the highs gives you the proper demand and supply zones, which means you don't necessarily want to be shorting into the area between $28,000 and $30,000 lows, or buying into, well, $65,000, $70,000 highs, right? This is what we know for sure from the high time frame point of view. Then if we take a look at some averages, this shows you a little bit of appreciation as long as Bitcoin accounts and discounts the past 200 days of daily closes. It tells us that despite that the entirety of the past 200 days of the price action, which is, well, quite a long period of time, about 2 out of 3rd of the entire year, right? So about 8 months of the price action, we are basically talking about, about an instance of Bitcoin's trend, Bitcoin's price appreciating. It is not like some huge appreciation if you have a look, right? Especially in the logarithmic chart, but you can tell clearly that there's, despite local kind of like wrinkles on the average, right? The smoothed price action kind of like, leads you and implies the upwards tendency being maintained. It's not the strongest one ever, right? It's nowhere near as strong as it was, for example, for the entire 2020, starting off of the lows of COVID crash, all the way up to $42,000, right? Followed by a dip to 27th. But this is significant. The momentum has slowed down. The clean trajectory change. We ended up having some sort of like a flat pattern instead, right? Which this, of course, range bond movement box, rectangle, whatever you name that, kind of like just classifies under this category. We have bounced off the lows of the volatility, right? The Bollinger Band's price action tells you basically the story of what it should be 20-week moving average, right, as the median, as the main kind of like reference point, and 2 standard deviations added on top, okay, and 2 standard deviations added in the bottom direction. So we have the coverage of total bandwidth giving you about 95% of the occurrences based on typical price action distribution. We are locally bouncing off of the volatility lows, right? The volatility lows tell you that on average Bitcoin is supposed to be trading within this scope of price action between spreading between $70,000 approximately and $33,000 per se. Okay, so this is the volatility zone defined by the weekly time frame. You also can tell and notice that we are heavily deviated beneath, the 20-week moving average, which is the main reference point. So this kind of like tells you the story that, similar to what we had in throughout the corrective time of Q3 2021, June through August 2021, we were similarly deviated beneath the average in quite a similar conditions, right? And last time it eventually brought the movement of, over 130% to the upside. The fact that we managed to dip there and close right back above, inside or above the volatility support tells you about some underlying short-term potential reversal pattern, kind of like, just trying to be processed, right? So the way I look at it, I take these bottom weeks, this bottom candle shadows, the lower candle shadows, as the demand zone, right? Which clearly gives you a kind of like, a picture of $33,000 all the way up to $36,000 $36,000, about 10% thick layer of of support right beneath $36,000, right? So as long as we keep closing the weeks, regardless of the week, regardless of the candle shadows dipping right beneath or something, as long as we keep closing the weekly sessions above $36,000, the trajectory is oriented to the upside, which potentially again may kind of like give you the similar vibes conditions and the following results similar to the oversold conditions throughout the quarter 3 of 2021. To start with, right, we are looking at 20-week moving average, which is located somewhere around $50,000, $51,000 approximately, right? And knowing that the markets tend to oscillate around its averages, when you have the average, right? This is the average price action. The price action actually, again, just tends to oscillate around the average rather than just go and literally be flat, right? So it makes sense to expect a mean reversion play that could potentially take us eventually back to the $50,000 regions. Well, BPRO bands, the momentum bands, tell you about the volatility based not on the Bollinger Bands. It is definitely not the same as Bollinger Bands. Instead, it bases it on a bit more sensitive version of standard deviations, right? And it tells you basically that anything happening inside the upper band, the high band area, is kind of like considered volatility supply, and anything happening inside the band lower end area kind of like defines the volatility based demand zone. Okay, you can tell that Bitcoin is currently trading right supported by the baseline, and additionally by this orange rectangle, which is nothing else but BWAP block. Okay, and BWAP block gives you the range of prices defined by volume, by volume adjusted levels. Okay, so volume weighted levels, volume adjustments, kind of like tells you that Bitcoin is currently supported anywhere in this kind of like just near region, and as long as we maintain this region, coming as a combination of the BWAP block defined by the volume adjustment or the actual average price hybrid given by the baseline. Okay, this gives you a scope, a very tiny narrow range of 36 approximately 0.5 and 37.1.2, so $500-600 range kind of like of support. The moment we lose it, right, with a ugly daily or mid-daily close, it kind of like boosts the chances of retesting the volatility lows. 40365, this is the most important level in the entire chart, from current pricing all the way up there. It's about 5 to 6% distance. Okay, so we are about 5 to 6% distant towards a breakout level, right? So the moment you see one stronger, more powerful candle coming, perhaps even backed by the stock market and the risk on the environment, whenever there is no, again, just like I said, no chart disruptions from the outside, no wars, no military conflicts, no new pandemics, etc. Then assuming, we have some sort of like a stability and risk on the environment back in the market, we may see a following up, price action candle like literally breaching through this level and stopping this entire 2.5 month lasting correction. Short-term levels to pay the attention to look at. We are talking about the levels literally defined by this area, then by this area. So break one, the next one unlocks, right? Give a proper break one, break to one level, the next one unlocks, etc. Right? Climb way. This is some sort of like a stairway down, followed by a stairway up, right? Sideways, local down, sideways, local down. Also kind of like sideways. So if you see a proper break and reclaim about $43,000 region, this potentially unlocks high 40s or even $50,000 region unlock and the end of the correction. And a quick look at the most important levels given by the hourly chart and the level lines of BPRO, guys, for better context reading. We're looking at 33,172, 34,786, 36,017, 37,657. Those are the most important supports for now. Hope you enjoyed that. God bless. Stay safe. Cheers.